We left off in the last segment with this simple 2-to-1 pulley system, and I'm going to add another pulley. So before I do that, let's baseline what we get with a 2-to-1 in this configuration. First of all, we know that if I generate a force of 1 pound here, it feeds through the pulley and I get 1 pound here, and that 1 pound terminates up here, so we have a 1 pound load on the anchor. Due to the pulley principle, we have a 1 pound force added to a 1 pound force, which gives us 2 pounds here. So what did it take to get 2 pounds at the load? 1 pound. I'm only holding 1 pound. So I've got 2 pounds here from 1 pound here, so I've got a 2-to-1. At the anchor, because I have 1 pound here, I have 1 pound here, which is applied to the anchor. So the anchor only has to support 1 pound to hold 2 pounds. Let's add the other pulley. Of course, the question here is, what does adding that pulley do? How does it impact the system? Do we get more mechanical advantage that helps us lift the load or not? In order to accurately evaluate that question, I want to introduce a method of calculating mechanical advantage in pulley systems that will tell us precisely what we have. This method will work with simple pulley systems, it'll work with compound pulley systems, it'll work with complex pulley systems. It will even work if we want to take friction into account and include that in the calculations. So this is a good point while we've got a simple system up here to look at how to calculate mechanical advantage in any pulley system. It's called the T method, at least that's what I call it. And I call it the T method because it has to do with looking at the tension in the pull line and seeing how it propagates through the system and what effect it has. And it's a pretty simple thing to do. This is a widely used method, so there's nothing new to it. You start with a pull line, and we're going to assume a tension in this line. You'll see this often in the literature as T. So we've got T here and T here and T here. Well, that's fine, but I think most of us relate to weight, so I'm just going to use poundage, and I'm going to use 1 pound. I'm just going to assume I have 1 pound of force right here. That 1 pound goes through the pulley, a lossless pulley, and we have 1 pound in this line. It goes through this lossless pulley, and we have 1 pound in this line, and it terminates at the anchor up here, and it has 1 pound on it. Now, since we have a pound here and a pound here, those two forces add due to the pulley principle to create the sum of those. So 1 pound plus 1 pound is 2 pounds. So we're generating a force of 2 pounds right here. What did it take to do that? Well, I've got 1 pound right here to generate 2 pounds right here. So that's a 2-to-1. So we have a 2-to-1 system. Let's see how this affects the anchor. Before, when we just had the force being supported here, we found that we only had 1 pound at that point. Well, that's still true. We have 1 pound throughout, so we still have 1 pound there. But this pulley has introduced something new. I have 1 pound here, 1 pound here. Again, the pulley principle says this force is added to this force to create the force right here. So 1 pound plus 1 pound is 2 pounds. These two forces also add at the anchor. So we have 1 pound plus 2 pounds is 3 pounds. Before we added that pulley, we only had 1 pound here. So we have tripled the force on the anchor. Now, it's not quite as bad as it sounds because we had 2 pounds down here and we're putting 3 pounds on the anchor to support that 2 pounds. So that's not as bad as it sounds. It's not 3 times the load. It's 3 times the force here. So sometimes adding just a simple pulley in the system can have a major impact on loading at the anchor or mechanical advantage toward the load. Now, in the next segment, I'm going to define what makes a pulley system a simple pulley system or not a simple pulley system.